నొప్పించక తానొప్పక జీవించువాడు ధన్యుడు సుమతి. A fellow who is blessed is a guy who is able to live in such a way that he is not hurting himself and he is not hurting others. The same thing applies to the world of business as well. Believe in yourself. More than anything else, your greatest asset is you. The rest of the world comes along, but your greatest asset is you. As my model of entrepreneurship, I call it E equals IC cube, where I stands for taking initiative, then connecting with people, creating something valuable, and then changing the status quo.
For example, I talk about content creation. There's so much competition. There's already so much content in the market. Similarly, I think for the products also, right? I want to know that how important is that differentiating factor, kind of differentiating you or your product or your content from the rest in the market. How do you take your brand to another country without actually losing your core essence of the brand, what it stands for, or your cultural essence, or whatever it means?
It is the home ground where you want to master the game. Like when you're playing cricket, of course you'll go and play in the World Cup. But before you play in the World Cup, you want to be champions inside as well. You want to have the best players in place. You want to have the best models of winning.
Everyone, welcome to my channel Talk with Nesh. I'm Neha Sharma, and on this channel I bring to you stories of resilience, reinvention and rediscovery. In today's episode, we are joined by Professor Jagannadha Pawan Tamvada, who is a professor of entrepreneurship at Kingston University, London. His research and work spans across continents from India, Germany and UK. He's shaping a new generation of leaders and helping them build businesses that stand for more than just valuation. He brings a powerful reminder that businesses can build, they can grow as well as do good, and that leadership across borders begins with integrity, and that innovation can be responsible. So if you're a founder, a business leader, or someone rethinking what success really means, then this conversation will stay with you for a long time. Hello sir, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Talk with Nesh.
Hello Nehaji, thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, sir. We really look forward to learning so much from you. And let's get started. If you could give a very brief introduction about yourself to all our viewers today.
I am Jagannadha Pawan Tamvada. I work as a professor at Kingston Business School in London. I've done my PhD at the Max Planck Institute of Economics in Germany. This was nearly 20 years ago. And I have lived and worked in Germany, also in India before coming to Germany, and in the US and here in England.
Great. Thank you so much. So welcome again. The first question that comes to my mind, because you've lived and worked in so many different countries, you have a very multicultural experience. So I understand that every country is different, right? When you talk about India, Germany, US, UK, they have their own specific business practices, cultural nuances. But I want to know from you, from your experience, what do you think, some of the core principles or essence of business which you have seen has remained constant, or it's same no matter what country you go and you start a business?
That's a wonderful question to start with. I think there are certain core values, irrespective of the context, that are present. And these, I've identified 2 or 3 of these, which I'll share with you. One is this pursuit of opportunity, where almost every business, every individual, irrespective of the context they're in, they're pursuing opportunity. And what is it that they're pursuing this opportunity for? Because there's this aspiration to excel. I think it's a human spirit. It's something deep within. Individuals, businesses, they all want to excel. And that is a starting point. And that is a common value I see irrespective of the context. And the other thing that I see, which is pretty much there, is concern for humanity. Whether we talk about some established, long cherished firms of India or America or even Europe, they all have this concern for the consumer. They have this concern for what they're doing to the world around them, how they are improving the world around them. You'll see that in the number of taglines. You see a large corporation, they'll talk about making a difference, being rooted doing, so these are doing something good for the world around them. These are certain common values that I believe are out there, irrespective of the context.
Wow, very well said. Making a difference. And yeah, that's a very powerful thing and a very common theme that we see across large organizations that are flourishing today. I want to know from you. So let's talk about like entrepreneurship. So for a new business owner, let's say someone in India, right, starting a business, what do you think are some of the first few steps, initial steps, or things that they need to do in order to start their business? And also then we'll talk about scaling, but I want to know from you. I have obviously read about the basics, like SWOT analysis, etc., etc. But also one thing that I read somewhere was trying to solve a problem, or something, finding a problem statement and something that is really that needs to be solved in the market, identifying it and then going forward. But from you, I want to know, like, what do you think the first few steps that must be done?
The first and the foremost step, in my opinion, is to take an initiative, is to initiate something. Often it so happens that we don't initiate because we are searching for the most ideal project, the most ideal business idea to build on, or even the most ideal opportunity to work with. And in the process, a lot of us don't even get started. We just keep deferring it. I feel the first point of the whole thing is to initiate. Take that first step. It could even be coming and saying, let me go into that university incubation cell and see what exactly is going on. Let me go into that venture capital competition that's happening somewhere in the city. Let me see what's happening there. So the starting point is taking a personal initiative to initiate something. And of course, once that kicks in, once that is in place, the next things will follow. And the next things will, in my opinion, include a few crucial things. Entrepreneurship is never a solo journey. It can be a solo journey, but it's a tough journey. It's a long journey. It's almost like when you're trying to make a goal in a football match. You can go from one goal to the other goal all by yourself with the ball. You can definitely do that. That's not an impossibility. It is a possibility. But you can imagine the resistance that you're having to solve. But by contrast, if you're a team player, you'll have a lot more success in actually playing the game and getting the ball into the goal. So the second step is to connect with other people who are like-minded. Once you've initiated, once you think, oh, that's a great, once you identified an opportunity after taking those initial steps, it's to connect with other people who will join your mission, whatever that mission be, not to make it a solo affair. And along with that team, you should go and create that new thing that you want to create, because it's all about adding value. What is a value that I'm adding, either through my service or through my product that I'm creating? How exactly do I go and create value through my new offering? So that with that team, you kind of create this new thing. And the final step, which I think is sort of encompassing the whole process, is to somehow get that thing into the market and affect a change in the market, because people would not know about it. So this involves a whole bunch of steps. How do you market it? How do you announce it to the world? How do you tell about what you are doing? So this is all in that part of the business building, where you will start going and championing your cause, your product, your service. So I think these are the crucial first steps. And irrespective of whether you're in high school or whether you are, in the Middle Ages, it doesn't matter. But these are the crucial first steps one should take. And I summarize this as my model of entrepreneurship. I call it E equals IC cube, where I stands for taking initiative, then connecting with people, creating something valuable, and then changing the status quo.
Wow, thank you. It's so beautifully summarized, and the steps that you mentioned. And more than that, I think when you spoke about taking the first step, that's where a lot of people give up because there's so many voices in the head. Okay. I want to then talk about the competition in the market. So when for example I talk about content creation, there's so much competition. There's already so much content in the market. Similarly, I think for the products also, right? I want to know that how important is that differentiating factor, kind of differentiating you or your product or your content from the rest in the market. What are like some of the things that will basically make your business a success and, make it soar or flourish? So my question here is really about those businesses that kind of rise and shine and are successful versus those that kind of fade away. I want to know from you.
So I'll become a little bit philosophical here, and I'll give you another analogy. A lot of this is to do with self-awareness. Whether it's about content creation, whether it's about going and competing in the market, I want to draw the attention back to oneself for a reason, to the firm, to the individual, and how that idea about oneself shapes the proposition that one puts forward and the approach that one takes to making that proposition succeed. So I'll just get started with this analogy. Let me say I'm a wave in a sea. So I can go around and saying how tall I rise, how big, how wide I am, how glamorous I am as a wave. I could put a lot of attention on my identity as a wave. The other thing I can do is to say I'm a wave in a sea, in an ocean. So my identity is more than that of the wave. I'm the sea itself. In both cases, the way I approach to how I think about my existence and what I do is fundamentally. When I think about myself as a wave, my entire focus is only on how exactly do I compete? How are the other waves? Are they big or small? Am I big or am I small? What exactly is happening? My entire context becomes this wave centric. The moment my identity shifts to me being the ocean, then of course I'll work on this wave, but I am trying to increase the grandeur of the ocean and think, wow, how brilliant am I as a wave so that this ocean can be beautiful. And that's a fundamental difference in how a company that's only focused on itself because it has to make its profit. It has to succeed. My content has to succeed. That, we need to get out of the wave thinking to start thinking about the ocean and saying, look, in the wider ocean, that I am, of course, as a wave, nobody can deny the fact that I'm also ocean. And the moment I'm that ocean, my approach is different. Now, of course, I'll be the most glamorous wave, but that is not because I want to compete with the next wave here or there, but because I want to add to the glamour of the sea. So this is how I look at it. So that's why I think there's no point worrying about competition. We are all in this journey together. So I really think we are all, different facets of a beautiful diamond. And the best thing we can do is to see how we can support each other. So if I go to the content creators, or if I go to my fellow professors, I would love to cherish their work as well, as much as I cherish mine. So in the process, we should evolve towards models that are more win-win, when we think about how we can all exist together and how we can all flourish together.
Wow, yeah. I really like what you said, especially about the approach to thinking, how you think. That makes a lot of difference. And as a community, how we can grow together. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I also, one of the questions that comes to my mind now is about scaling. So once we have a business in place, a lot of people, they want to like scale. Now you have worked across different countries, right? So I want to talk about global expansion. When is the right time for it, right? And B, how do you take your brand to another country without actually losing your core essence of the brand, what it stands for, or your cultural essence, or whatever it means to you? So how do you do that?
Your cultural brand is your USP. When we look at German watches, for example, and then say, look, that watch is made in Germany. And then suddenly there is this impression about precision excellence, craftsmanship, whatever that's associated with it. When we think about furniture made in Sankeda, in Gujarat, we think about the beautiful furniture they make, the chulas and the sofas, the handcrafted. It's really rich. Now, the USP in almost all of these cases, I'm just giving a couple of examples, but we can think about n number of things. Cars made by Japanese firms back in the 60s and 70s, Toyotas, which kind of really came out big time in the American markets because they loved what these cars were about. In each of these cases, the company that is there from a particular context takes its culture, takes its values with it to a different context. And that is its USP. Because the richness lies in the originality and the authenticity of what that product is, of the value that that firm, that culture is giving that particular firm and that entrepreneur. This is the richness of it. And when you look at a number of organizations around the world, let us say, and for example, we have Tatas. Tatas do work all around the world, and they have bought Jaguar Land Rover here in the UK, and you can see how that company, which was almost going to go bankrupt, and in some time back in the early 2000s, became a flourishing brand once again, because there was this new company from a different context that came in and brought its ethos with it, and it's brought whatever it stands for to this new organization and made it part of it. We can see this across the world. When you are trying to expand to the rest of the world, your great USP is what your culture has given you. And to blindly imitate a different proposition just because that is what is probably the in thing may not really serve well, because eventually people will figure out what is it that this product stands for, what is it that this business stands for, and the quality and the craftsmanship of your own offering is what makes it stand out. And that, rooted in your own cultural intelligence, is something that makes it a formidable and impressive product in a foreign market. Yeah, that's what I look at it as. And how do you do it? Of course, it's not that you're going to expand internationally on day one. The home ground is the home ground where you want to master the game. Like when you're playing cricket, of course, you'll go and play in the World Cup. But before you play in the World Cup, you want to be champions inside as well. You want to have the best players in place. You want to have the best models of winning, and then replicate these abroad. So that replication is easier because, as I said, certain core values are constant around different geographies. People love to have good products in their hands. And why does Apple succeed, whether we are in India or whether we are in England or Australia? Because they have beautifully crafted products that are thought through. Somebody is thinking through every aspect of it, and that's what is making it succeed. But where did they start off with? In the home ground. The home ground is a very precious place. We should not underestimate its value. If you think about Facebook, where did Facebook start from? Its own dorms in the universities of US. Slowly, once they understood the model, once they perfected that model, that's when they transplanted it to a different country and say, oh, this is working here. Probably it'll work there as well. And it did work. So to master the game and to perfect the product in one's own home context is very crucial when we think about expanding abroad. And to carry that cultural intelligence along with it makes it a really valuable offering for the world.
Absolutely. Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing that. Another question that comes to my mind is about sustainability, right? Something that you were talking about when you started our conversation about the big brands that are basically thinking about humanity. When we talk about sustainability, and especially in the context of small businesses, they're always running on thin margins, and I think profitability, speed is something that comes to them first. I want to understand from you, how can sustainability become like a shared responsibility and not just like a burden? How can that change, especially for small businesses?
It's a wonderful question, and we grapple with that even as individuals. Like, for example, if you want to buy an electric car, it'll be much more priced than a diesel alternative. Yeah. So it's a dilemma everyone faces. Do I want to go through this sustainable route, which is much more expensive, or do I want to go into my normal routine and ensure that my profits or whatever is in place the way it usually is? Now here, I believe that it's all about whether our thinking is on a short run basis or on a long run basis. It's all about our horizon that is defining our approach to how we are deciding on these things. If it is short run, of course, in short run, you will preserve the profits by continuing using those, diesel motors, doing whatever. You will, maintain these things. In the short run, there's no harm. That's exactly what. I won't say no harm. I mean, you'll no harm to your profits because you're maintaining them. But in the long run, you're very likely to lose out to someone who has made that transition fairly early on. Of course, that person, that business would have incurred a cost at the time of transitioning, but in the long run, they are reaping the benefits. And these benefits come in multiple forms, in terms of how employees engage with you. They have a lot more confidence that my employer is trying to do something good to the world. He talks his walk, it's not like he's just tells me about being ethical without being ethical himself or herself. So people observe what you do, and then they say, this is what they really mean it. So it improves employee engagement. It improves at a different level how consumers react to what you're offering. Imagine if I believe that this organization is very strongly rooted in sustainability, and it is offering this, and this is facing competition from another product or a service, I probably will go and say, let me pick that offering that is more sustainably rooted. So you have confidence from customers, employees, even investors and the markets going forwards. But this is something that is of a long run thing. It's not happening overnight. That transition is not something that is a short run one, that has a short run agenda in front of it. It is about taking that long mile and reaping rewards over a longer horizon. But they are certain. It's definitely going to happen. And that's a faith we need to have. Because the system rewards people who are doing good to the system. Eventually it does reward. It does not hold that back. But it's also about how do we maneuver through this. For example, I'll give you a small example. Let us say you have to put that 100,000 pounds right now to kind of make that transition because you're a small firm. And I'll give a very mundane example. You want to put some solar panels, or you want to do something else to generate your own power, or you want to change the machines and what energy they're running, that they're using to run these machines, etc. We need to be a bit more creative about how that 100,000 is in place. Is there somebody who is willing to give interest-free credit? Is the company that's selling those solar panels willing to make a concession? Because in terms of the interest it will ask of me if I'm buying this and paying it over installments. So we need to make sure that long-term return is also associated with distributed costs over a time horizon, so that it becomes easier to transition rather than not transitioning at all and then saying, oh yes, let me persist with my usual ways of doing. So all I'm saying is there must be some creative ways of identifying how that transition can happen in an economically reasonable way. Because if it becomes something that is too formidable, then people just won't do it. And then they'll think, let me just continue with my diesel machines. Yeah. There was one corporation called Dong. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Danish Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, one of the biggest oil and gas corporations of the world. And around 10, 20 years ago, they decided, it was on that timeline, when they decided, look, let us transition into completely sustainable company. Yeah, a company that is only supplying power and energy based on sustainable sources. Can you believe it's one of the top companies in the world today? At that moment, you can imagine the sort of a shock that system got when they said, we'll not extract oil and gas anymore from Earth. We're just going to supply sustainable energy to our customers. It was a big thing, but they did transition. They're one of the greenest companies in the world today. They're called Orsted, and it's a fantastic transition they have done. So it is quite possible, but the returns come over the longer run, and we need some creativity in how we transition through that by handling those costs.
Great. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing such a wonderful example. Another question that comes to my mind at this point is about innovation. So you had very briefly mentioned Apple, right? I want to know, like, what do you think have been like in the recent past some innovations that have been disruptors. Obviously, AI is one of them, so everybody knows that. But not just that. I want to know from you that how does that impact the next gen of entrepreneurs? And also another question that comes to my mind is, do you see any ideas around you at the moment that you think could be a game changer? Like maybe some company is doing something that's caught your eye, and you think that this is possibly the next, big innovation or disruption that might happen. If you have any such thing in your mind.
Oh, wonderful! I think there is a tremendous amount of innovation that is happening. And of course, you did mention AI, and a lot of it is being spearheaded by AI with drug discovery companies using it to discover drugs in a much shorter time frames. People creating new companies overnight without any people employed by them. There's a lot of things happening. And what I sincerely believe is that by sheer coincidence, we have stumbled on a technology called generative AI, which is a great leveler. I call it a great leveler because it doesn't matter whether you're good in a particular language. It doesn't matter whether you're good in a particular subject. It doesn't matter what, or the profession in making cars or not. But you could still make a car because it'll help you in building that car. So I call it a great leveler because humanity has never had this opportunity to create value to this extent. So rather than focusing on one or two innovations that are probably happening, I will come back to this particular innovation that has happened because I was part of that journey. In 2002, I started my PhD in artificial intelligence at the University of Technology, which of course I didn't pursue because I was so much in love with economics, and I had to do my PhD in economics and understand the world around me and do something for the world that I saw in terms of what I could do for the economy. But when I saw the way this technology evolved over the last 25 years, it's unbelievable. At that time, they were only trying to recognize characters. You punch in a series of zeros and ones, and the machine will tell whether it's A or a B. From here, we have come to a point where it's basically almost talking like an intelligent agent, and that agent is able to offer unbelievable amount of flexibility in terms of what it can do for you and for me. Now, this I believe is a great leveler, and irrespective of the sector that you're in, that technology can be leveraged to create value disproportionately. Now we are having several other innovations happening, including in the world of cybersecurity, in the world of robotics. We can see, tomorrow, probably in a couple of years down the line, we'll probably see robots sitting next to us in our homes, bringing us a cup of tea and then going and doing our shopping. We never know. Yesterday, Elon Musk was offered a 1 trillion pay package, never heard of in the history. And one of the targets he has is to sell millions of robots to the world who will do service to us. So here is one more example of an individual who believed in a sustainable offering and became the richest man in the world. So that, going back to your previous question as well, as to whether this can coexist with profit. I mean, we have legendary examples like him who have made a fortune by sticking to the sustainability agenda. But once again, yeah, we are seeing uh, people aspiring to living in other planets and doing things, innovating on that front. Space economy is becoming a big thing. But I don't know. I don't want to speculate on whether we will live in a different planet. I don't want to do that. But what I sincerely believe is that we are now having technological tools in our hands that will allow us to do phenomenal things that were never within our grasp before. It's almost like saying, when you take a paracetamol, you don't need to know the composition of the paracetamol. Paracetamol itself will work to kind of, reduce a fever, whatever. So in a similar way, we are having technologies whose intricacies we do not need to know. We don't need to know, go deep inside it and say, how exactly is that algorithm working? Because the superstructures that got built up right now are so advanced that we could just create products and services on the fly with zero code, with very self-reliant manner. It, of course, involves a learning curve in terms of how to use some of these tools. I was very surprised when earlier in this summer, I was teaching a cohort of MBA students, and they had an idea because we were trying to solve an SDG related problem. And I said, think about what ideas could be viable, could solve one of these SDG, when I say SDG, Sustainable Development Goal issues. Think about it. You won't believe there was this one little small team that made a full-fledged website with all the interactions happening, everything, in a matter of 20 minutes. And I was stunned. And I can't imagine who you did that. So the gentleman said, they had the computer in front of him. They opened a website called replit.com. And the group was having a chat. They were saying, oh, this could be a feature on the website. This could be a feature on the website. The website Replit was hearing their conversation. They didn't even type and they didn't even instruct it to do anything. That agent was hearing what these people were conversing, and it crafted a website for them and gave it to them in 20 minutes. And they came and presented to the rest of the class how that business can people. So this is the world we are living in. There's phenomenal innovation that is happening. But that innovation should be about enabling everyone. And I believe that it is something that can enable everyone. And almost all different actors in this particular game should ensure that it's working for everyone. It should not become something that only few people can use and leverage for advancing their causes. It should become something that more and more people are able to use. And that'll happen when we have a more broad-based approach to adopting it, educating our people into using these technologies that are coming up. Because that thing will change a lot of what we are able to do in terms of innovation.
Yeah, very well said. The point about enabling it and also accessibility. And also the thing that you mentioned about innovation in like AI, using AI in the medical field. So I think that's going to be a very big game changer in the coming times as well. The other question that I have in my mind is about ethical dilemmas. I know you really talk about ethics in business. So I want to know about any ethical dilemmas that you have seen, that the entrepreneurs who face that, and what kind of mental models have they adopted to kind of solve those dilemmas. So if there are any examples, real life scenarios that you can share.
Ethical dilemmas are a norm. I think we face them every time. I'll give you one small example of an entrepreneur who was struggling with this idea of having to fire 5 of his people because his profits were going down. And if he keeps them, it is fine. He can continue continue having them and pay them. But he would be really running very low on his cash, which meant he would not be able to invest and expand his firm, etc., etc. And you see this sort of a dilemma playing out in front of many companies in the world. Now, what would he do? And he did have this question as to whether he should fire the five people and invest the savings into advancing the technology in the company, or continue keeping the 5 people would be a laggard in the world of business. So these kind of dilemmas are very common, and they happen all the time. Now, the thing I believe that gentleman should do and would have done after speaking with me is that if he has to invest in his company and that's growth, and that would eventually get a lot of other externalities, positive externalities, including him expanding the firm and hiring more people subsequently. And at this moment, he has to fire those 5 people. He has to take an approach wherein he will try contacting with people within his network to see whether these 5 people can be placed somehow in their organizations in a different set of roles, so that while at the same time he is letting go of these people, he is also taking a sort of a custodianship, a sort of a stewardship when it comes to handling what is happening to them, rather than simply saying, oh, these 5 people have been there with me for 10 years. I've just let them go. I've taken care of them for 5 years. Now I have off for 10 years. I have nothing to do with them now. I think that sort of that sort of an approach is not right. Because if you are an entrepreneur who has existed in that world of business for 10 years, 20 years, you definitely have a social network that you can tap into to kind of make sure that some things are in place for these people whom you are thinking of letting go. Now, this goes back to a very beautiful saying from a classic poet from my region in Andhra Pradesh in India, who said, the way to conduct oneself is to conduct in a way that you are not hurting yourself, you're not hurting others, and you're not hurting the environment. Noppinchakata noppaka jeevinchuvaadu dhanyudu sumati. A fellow who is blessed is a guy who is able to live in such a way that he is not hurting himself and he is not hurting others. The same thing applies to the world of business as well. So when you confront that dilemma, see if you can manage that dilemma in a way that you're not hurting yourself, you're not hurting other stakeholders around.
So, sir, you have worked in academia in research. So, I want to know from you that, what are the universities doing today to better prepare students to become successful entrepreneurs who are also ethical, who also think about sustainability and not just profits?
We, as a university ecosystem, have significantly invested resources into ensuring that happens, especially after the financial crisis of 2008, where certain ways of business education, which really emphasized shareholder primacy, profits, etc., led to some very bad repercussions for the rest of the world. So universities take this task very seriously. We see that in journals. We see that in the kind of conferences that we are having around the world, and how there is that emphasis on responsible behavior by different actors in the world of business. And the students do get big time brush with that in due course of their education. We have modules on responsible innovation. I lead a center, for example, at Kingston Business School called the Research Hub for Responsible Innovation, Sustainability and Entrepreneurship. You can see that across, different universities. They're all very strongly invested in promoting ethical ways of doing things because they understand the value of students going and creating valuable businesses. So I remember this very famous construct that was provided by a scholar called William Baumol in the 1960s. He said entrepreneurship can be productive, unproductive, or destructive. Because people could make money doing a lot of destructive activities. People trying to smuggle, people trying to engage in drug cartels, shifting migrants from one country to another. But that is all destructive entrepreneurship. But what we want our students to engage with is more of productive entrepreneurship. entrepreneurship that contributes in a positive way. And I'm very confident. I'm very sure that almost every university in the world takes this very seriously and is doing it to
Great.
ensure that happens.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, especially the work that you and your university are doing in this space. Um, Another question that comes to my mind is, to be a successful entrepreneur, what, according to you, are like some of the qualities that are essential to be successful in this world as an entrepreneur?
One, I would start off with discipline. Nothing works without it. Just
Yeah.
having a discipline and a set of values that are associated with it, whatever those values be. To identify these values very quickly and say, this is what I will stand for
Yeah.
as a businessman. That's very crucial. The second thing I believe is to have team working skills. It's extremely important that we are able to survive in teams. We are able to manage teams. We're able to see the whole team work together and flourish. If without the team, an individual will really struggle unless there are exceptions. I won't say that you can't be a solo entrepreneur. We have a lot of proprietary owners and all that. But if you want to have a scalable business that's going forward, improving, and so on and so forth, very quickly from one, you will start having employees, if not co-founders. So you have to know how to deal with people, how to deal with teammates, how to deal with employees. That's a very crucial thing. A third thing is to be resilient. The world of business is always having ups and downs. You never see a stock market that just goes up. You never see an economy that just goes up. There are always ups and downs and ups and downs. This is going back to the sea. It is a bit like a sea. There are ups and downs, unless you go to the middle of the sea where it's all stable, which is like when you become a big company and you're a Fortune 500 company. That's a different thing. But otherwise, you are dealing with these waves that are going up and down in terms of business cycles. So to be resilient is very crucial. How exactly do you maneuver through that? The ups are easy, the downs are not. And that's the same everywhere. But have strategies to manage both so that one is not overinflated when it's up and over deflated when it is down.
Great, great. I think my key takeaway is resilience, and that's what I also completely believe in. Because it's like a pendulum, right? It keeps swinging, so you have to hold your ground, and you have to have faith and keep going, keep showing up. And finally, as a wrap up, I want to ask you, what if you had to give any message to all the young entrepreneurs or people who are right now thinking that, okay, we need to start a business, we must start a business. I haven't started anything yet. So what would that message be?
Believe in yourself. More than anything else, your greatest asset is you. The rest of the world comes along, but your greatest asset is you. So very strongly be rooted in that belief, in that conviction of your own worth, of the worth of your ideas, of the worth of your capability. You can do remarkable things only if you believe in yourself, because that's when you will take the initiative. That's when you will connect with others. That's when you will create, and that's when you'll contribute.
Wow. Okay, so I changed my key takeaway is this. Believe in yourself. You're your biggest asset. So great. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining us today. It was a wonderful conversation. Yeah, thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I wish everyone who listens to this the very best in everything that they do, and yourself too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching us till the end. I really hope that you found value in today's conversation. Please do like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear this. I always believe that we do not have to look far for inspiration because there are so many incredibly inspiring stories all around us. Because as they say, that no one else sees the world the way you do. So no one else can tell the stories that you have. Thank you.